Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. In this video, I want to highlight what Star Citizen professions are getting attention this year. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members for allowing me to make these kinds of videos, in particular to my latest two patrons, the Celestial Turks and the Judge, and my latest two new channel members, Gawain and Raturix Gaming. Thank you all so much for the support. So there's a lot of exciting mechanics being worked on in 2021, which will help flesh out many of the planned professions for Star Citizen. Today I would like to break down these so we can get a clearer view of what careers will expand this year and into next. Now, I will mention first that the chances of seeing completely new professions this year are pretty slim but not impossible. I say this because Chris Roberts did mention in a letter from the chairman a little while back that they plan to take the time to finish and polish the current in-game professions, which are exploration, hauling, trading, mercenary, outlaw, bounty hunting and mining, and getting them as rounded and finished as possible while they continue to develop the other professions. So with that said, first up we have cargo hauling and commodity trading. Now, there are quite a few cards on the roadmap that are set to further flesh out this profession this year. Whether you're a cautious local delivery driver or a balls to the walls 30k Dodger Caterpillar commodity trader, these updates will affect you. The first card is the Cargo System Refactor. The work for this card is set to finish towards the end of May, and it says it will allow both found and purchased cargo to be picked up, moved around and placed into cargo grids on ships. What this means is that when you purchase a full cutlass hold of cargo from a kiosk, those 1SU boxes which were previously static in your cargo hold will now be movable using the tractor beam, which also means pirates will have more reason to try to take them from you. Now, I think the Cargo Refactor is going to physicalize all cargo in the game so that we can interact with them, so it is a very big change and will redefine the hauling mechanic massively, hopefully utilizing cargo decks as well. Another major improvement to hauling and trading is the commodity kiosk updates, which is slated to finish work in June. Now, this is the conversion of the kiosks to utilize the building blocks UI tech, and they will also be adding load timers, which they say will need to be factored in when planning cargo routes. So what this means is, instead of the current filling up or unloading your Caterpillar in an instant, there will be a wait time applied. This will make the profession more realistic, and even loading up the smallest of ships will not be instant. Don't worry though, it isn't going to be painstakingly realistic, like waiting hours for your ships to be unloaded, but do expect a reasonable timer that scales depending on the size of your ship. At this time, we have no idea how long each timer will be, but as always, for the first iteration, it may not be exactly where CIG intend it, and it will be balanced until correct. If I was to guess, it'll be around something like 10 minutes for a full Caterpillar, maybe 15 minutes, but that is, as I say, just a guess. I also expect an option to offer expediting fees like what we have with ship reclaims, so if you don't want to wait for the full duration, you can pay some extra credits, which will then get more people on the job and speed up the process. Now, I'm very much looking forward to the day when we can dock to a space station or land at a port and have a 10-minute wait while you watch the NPCs loading up your ship, giving you enough time to plan your route. So there's a couple of new additions to the ship lineup, hopefully coming this year. They will be the Hull A and the B, and possibly the Hull C as well. Now, there's no guarantees that any of these ships will release this year, but it is looking pretty promising. The Hull A through C will provide some great upgrade paths for anybody wanting to pursue the hauling profession, and they will also make up the backbone of the trade lanes. So alongside all of these new cargo hauling improvements, CIG will be developing more cargo-specific missions, expanding on the current multi-box delivery missions that we have right now. For example, we have a card called Delivery Mission Dangerous Locations, which will be developed this month and into the next, and it says implementing missions tasking players with delivering hazardous cargo to dangerous locations, and cargo will be damage sensitive and must be protected while outlaws attempt to destroy it. This mission, I think, is specifically referring to the Xeno Threat event, which we heard CIG are hoping to release ASAP. There is also another delivery mission card titled Timed, which includes missions with multiple drops and varied timers, meaning players will need to prioritize drops and plan routes to ensure all packages are delivered on time. It also mentions that these missions will vary between local drops and long distance deliveries, and they are set to complete this design sprint by mid-February. One big update which should have a pretty drastic effect on the cargo hauling and trading profession is called Recipe TDD. Now this is an overall performance pass on the economic system, from commodity trading to item prices, providing a better overall experience for players. So quite a significant feature that will make a big difference. To finish the hauling and trading profession off, other features that don't necessarily apply to the profession as such, but will factor into it, are docking, which will be a cool addition that'll make hauling in large ships pretty epic. There's reputation gates for missions, so adding more depth to accessing missions based on your reputation, and updated reputation UI to help you understand your current rep and ranks with the various orgs. So there is quite a lot of changes coming to the hauling profession that'll really create something engaging and fun to get on with while we wait for the most significant update, which is the quantum simulation. This is to be worked on throughout the whole of this year and likely into next as well, with a 53-week sprint. So it's going to take some time and effort, but this will handle all of the unseen AI and NPCs, plus drive the dynamic economy, which will influence the supply and demand throughout the verse, influencing many haulers. So the next profession to get a lot of love this year is bounty hunting. Now, they did bring in some updates with 3.12 for bounty hunting, like the last known locations and the time since seen indicator, and of course the Idris fight as well once your rep is high enough. But it's still not quite enough for me to really want to get my teeth into this profession just yet. This year, however, they are really working to expand on that. Bounty Hunting version 2 is a card which is to be worked on throughout this year, but hopefully we will see updates coming with each patch, and as it says, enabling players to track criminals via a mobiGlas security app linked to distress beacons, comm arrays, air traffic control systems, cameras and NPC informants. Now this is what I'm waiting for, that cat and mouse gameplay giving equal opportunity for both Bounty Hunter and the bounty to intelligently track or evade. This will really expand this profession to where CIG envision it, eventually applying to both players and NPC bounties and bounty hunters. Now I don't know exactly how we will track bounties, but a couple of suggestions CIG have made in the past are maybe having cameras at landing zones, flagging up a known criminal and then notifying all bounty hunters in the area, or tracking quantum trails, so helping you to work out what your target's destination is. We did see a little while back some leaks of a potential FPS scanner allowing you to scan players or NPCs, and this will most definitely play into the bounty hunting profession, but no sign of a dedicated app on the roadmap just yet. What is on the roadmap is Surrender, and this is also slated for 3.13, so we should soon have the option to take bounties in alive, which will be a great addition, provided that people see a need to surrender rather than just fight to the death anyway. The security service card, it says it tracks and records the actions of players and NPCs and is what bounty hunters will use to expose the actions taken by outlaws so that they can track them. This card sprint is set to finish by the end of September. Hopefully with all of the NPC and AI work that is going on, it'll develop the NPCs into more capable prey that bounty hunters can pursue planetside and into locations. Also, the spawn lockers we see on the roadmap will help with the removal of armistice zones at planetside locations and inside space stations, meaning that bounty hunters will be able to draw weapons and apprehend players or NPCs on foot wherever they want to go. Of course, any lore system improvements will continue throughout development, which will directly affect this profession. So there's quite a lot of non-bounty hunting specific features that will help to develop the profession further anyway. Physical inventories or personal inventories will directly change how bounty hunters approach a target, all based on whatever weapons and equipment that they have available to them, which will require a lot more planning. The updates to radars, scanners, and the inclusion of ship ID numbers will likely all play a part in tracking and identifying the bounty as well. Now, I'm really looking forward to seeing the bounty hunting profession develop, and I can't wait to get tracking a target in a realistic manner, planning an assault and then taking them in alive, either on my own or with a group of fellow bounty hunters. Bounty hunting is set to be a really engaging and challenging profession, and I'm excited to see how it evolves this year. So I suppose when it comes to being an outlaw or a pirate, a lot of the systems and features being built for other professions will naturally apply to them and expand the piracy and outlaw profession itself. The cargo system refactor, for example, means cargo will be physicalized, allowing pirates to steal it. All of the bounty hunting mechanics like tracking will have major implications on being an outlaw in the verse, having to evade capture or masking your every move so that you don't leave any traces, CIG really want to make the life of a pirate or an outlaw just as fleshed out as any other profession that we have, giving them plenty to get on with, to think about and to get good at. And although I don't plan on being a pirate or outlaw, I may have to create another account to experience life on the run, just for fun. So one profession I know many of us are waiting for, including myself, is exploration. Now, exploration is pretty non-existent in the PU right now, but hearing that CIG will be expanding on this year is pretty exciting. There are a few cards this year that will show work is planned that will relate to exploration in some way, and these include the vehicle radar and scanning improvements, saying that it'll highlight volumes of space to investigate weak signatures, and I think this pretty much is the starting point of exploration, scanning and finding anomalies, and then investigating them further. Seeing jump points, spacescaping, and new planetary systems like Pyro and Nyx obviously expanding the play area will inevitably expand on exploration massively, but it is all very much determined by the implementation of server meshing, and of course if server meshing doesn't make it in this year, neither will these new planetary systems. Other features that could tie into exploration in some way include the Harvestable Minables card, which adds the first iteration of looting, and although it specifies spawning weapons, bottled water, clothing and med pens for players to find, store and use, there is nothing to say that they won't spawn rare or valuable stashes of items that could serve as a reward for exploring. Now, as much as there are some features coming that could help with the expansion of exploration, the mechanic as a whole is heavily dependable on iCache and server meshing, so the smoother and quicker this core tech gets into the game, then the more CIG can expand upon the profession. So one of the most anticipated professions many of us are looking forward to is salvaging. Salvaging Tier 0 is on the roadmap and requires a 9-week engineering sprint between June and August, and it states all back-end tech tasks related to creating the first pass of the salvaging feature that will be used in future locations and mission updates. So although this isn't directly saying that salvaging is coming in 2021, more that they are working on the back-end tasks to create this mechanic, I still feel we will see the very first tier of salvaging. However, I have no idea what this first tier will involve. My guess is it'll use the derelict ships that we have planetside and in space already, and interacting with them in some way. Is it removing components or weapons, or stripping the hulls for materials? Both could be equally potential, but also equally unlikely. There is the Cutting Tool Tier 2 card, which is going to play a large part in the salvaging profession, and although to start with it'll just be another multi-tool attachment, CIG have stated that they will create dedicated tools for all professions that can do the job to a better standard than the multi-tool. For Cutting Tier 2, it mentions they will continue to develop the existing multi-tool tech to allow players to cut through specific objects and the ability to freeform cut on specific surfaces. The work for this takes place between May and August, so finishing in time for salvaging Tier 0, and as I say, I wouldn't be surprised if we are using this multi-tool for the very first version of salvaging. But again, I have no idea what will come first. Will it be stripping hulls of derelicts in some way and filling up our cargo holds with scrap, or will it be the removal and sale of weapons? It doesn't look like the full array of physical ship components will be coming this year, as we only have shield emitters and CPU blades so far, so I'm not too sure on that one. Could it be using the salvaging ship like the Reclaimer? I personally doubt it for the first iteration, but we could see the Vulture make an appearance for Tier 0 salvage. Maybe the ship is hiding behind one of those unannounced cards, as it was on the roadmap once and then promptly removed. Either way though, having even a Tier 0 of salvaging will be a great new addition to the verse, and I'm sure most of us will be happy with that for starters. So another profession and mechanic that is seeing its very first steps this year is base building. Now, although I certainly do not expect to have the ability to physically build our own structures this year, there is a lot of work that is part of the overall base building and owning system. I'm talking about the Dynamic Environments card and the Small Home Outpost card. Dynamic environments will give us a dynamic interior environment, allowing players to move and interact with props and consumables, and the Small Home Outpost will provide the very first proper shelter for players to live in, consisting of a central hub with optional internal and external modules, providing basic necessities to provide a small group of people for an indefinite amount of time. Also, another card to point out is the Outpost theme variants, which are to introduce colonialism outpost designs which we have seen evolve on Inside Star Citizen. Although these are to be found in Pyro, so again it's going to be hit or miss whether we see them in person this year, it is still progress towards base building. So no, I don't think we will be building our own bases this year, but yes, I certainly know massive progress to base building will be made, and we'll have a place to call home to, which in itself is pretty exciting. The mining profession looks to be getting a slight addition by way of allowing us to enter caves with the Greycat ROC and the Ursa rover. Now, although this isn't a huge mining update, I suppose 312 brought that, this will at least expand the mining locations for the ROC, and hopefully alongside the recipe TDD card, they can reduce and balance the ROC's ability at making money, as it is a little OP since its release. There is an update coming to the medical profession, not changing the face of medicine, just improving upon what we have in the PU right now, but of course every step is a step closer. We have healing tier 0 and actor status tier 1, and it says this will improve the player status system, implementing additional statuses like intoxication and effects from drugs, and the associated functional and visual feedback, while also allowing players to use items like medpens on other players and NPCs, which in itself is a pretty huge improvement. Now, this card is being worked on from January until the end of June, and this is a step towards the full medical system of identifying ailments and treating them on yourself or other players and NPCs accordingly. Another card which will help to develop the medical system is the FPS Devices Deployables card, which has work scheduled between May and September and mentions that alongside the current throwable and consumable devices like grenades and medpens, CIG will create new items with different effects, so hopefully expanding on medical devices other than the simple medpens we have now. Coming this year, with 3.13 in fact, we are seeing the first edition of hacking. Now, technically hacking isn't really a main profession in Star Citizen, but I am sure that some players can make a good name for themselves and earn quite a decent living as a hacker, but this card states creating the first pass of the hacking feature that will be used in future locations and mission updates, and when in-game will be used to access systems and areas previously closed to the player. The hacking process will be represented via a minigame that is displayed on the HUD visor. So no idea how hacking will work, and I'm hoping it'll be more than just a simple minigame and more of a skill-based system that allows players to develop their skills with it. Either way, it's good to see the initial starting point of hacking making its way into the PU with the first patch of the year, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it will actually work. So some other professions which are constantly evolving is anything surrounding ship combat, so mercenary and escorting. Many of these features planned this year will directly influence these professions, expanding on what is possible. With the expansion of the cargo hauling profession, this will in turn require haulers to hire escorts. The same goes for the expansion of our play area. When they open it up to Pyro and Nyx, travel will be dangerous, but profits could be higher, so escorts and mercenaries will be a necessity. Not to mention that all the improvements to combat itself, like the turret usability improvements, the CPU blades, and all of the missile improvements will directly influence these professions too. If you see yourself as a dedicated mercenary, or someone who is committed to helping a hauler get to where they need to go, your options are continuing to grow, and hopefully soon we'll have a more robust combat assistance escorting beacon, so haulers and miners can hire help, and the help can earn a good living. So one of my most anticipated professions is engineering, the process of maintaining, replacing and repairing all of the many parts and components of our vehicles and ships to keep them running smoothly. For 2021 and the implementation of iCache, that will slowly begin to become a reality. Although now it doesn't appear that all the components are becoming physicalized and implemented, there are a few features and updates that will expand on what we have and introduce the first physical component. These are shield emitters, which will convert the emitters into physical objects that can be targeted and destroyed, giving players the ability to permanently disable enemy shields. Also, there is a ship CPU, which introduces a new component, being CPU blades, to allow us to modify or improve certain ship functionalities. Now, it looks as though CIG are implementing the physical shield emitters more in relation to how they will affect ships rather than how an engineer will interact with them, but it is definitely a step in the engineering direction. What I would love to get is an update on the resource generation and item control system. This is what handles every component on your ship and allows them to interact and communicate with each other accordingly. Last we heard was that they have established the technical documentation for this and have been prototyping it with the Hammerhead configuration. I do wonder when we will begin to see this level of interaction with our systems, and as much as I don't see it on the roadmap yet, we still have many more teams to reveal all of their work. So let us hope that this appears soon. So there you have it, a lot of work being done on many of the current professions to get them polished and as finished as possible, plus quite a lot of work going on to start implementing new professions. As I mentioned a second ago, there are still many teams to be added to the roadmap, including one vital team I'm really itching to see, which is the Core Tech group. So the teams working on things like Vulkan API, the Gen 12 renderer, plus iCache and server meshing. CIG have stated recently that they are currently planning their first roadmap update to be later this month, with updates happening every 2 weeks thereafter. And as you would expect, I will be sure to break down everything we see, so make sure you are subscribed and tick that notification bell if you want to be notified when my videos go live. Also, if you can do me a huge favour and hit that like button, I would really appreciate it. And if you want to talk more about Star Citizen, do follow the link to my Twitch channel. It is twitch.tv/supermacbrothers Ryan. Cannot do this without my patrons and channel members, so thank you guys so much for the support. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.